Hello, everyone. Let's start today's session. First of all, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm Soumya, and I work at Sensfrx and a part of the documentation team. And today I will be your moderator. So let's begin. So in today's webinar, we will be discussing how to enhance the security of your WooCommerce store and some of the preventive measures that you can take to safeguard your store against online fraud. And to dive deeper into this topic, I would like to introduce Mr. Jinendra, who is our head of product and who has about 14 years of experience in this field. Jinendra is also a seasoned IT professional specializing in solution architecture and fraud prevention. For the past 5 years, he has focused on developing security solutions to combat online fraud, significantly reducing fraudulent activities for various businesses. He has led teams as a product manager, solution architect, and data scientist, driving innovation across multiple platforms. His expertise in data analysis and machine learning allows him to stay ahead of evolving fraud threats with a continued focus on protecting businesses. And in today's session, he will be sharing his knowledge and valuable insights on the same. Over to you, Janendra. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I hope that I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Soumya, for the introduction. I'm Jinendra. I'm Solution Architect at Sensfrx, and I'd like to thank you for joining today's webinar on how to prevent fraud orders and fake registrations in WooCommerce. As you know, fraud is an ever-growing threat to e-commerce businesses, and WooCommerce, being one of the most widely used platforms, is no exception. So in today's session, we'll explore the common types of fraud that WooCommerce stores face, the techniques used by fraudsters, and most importantly, how can you safeguard your store using actionable strategies and advanced tools. So in the next 30 minutes, I'll walk you through the real world fraud prevention techniques. I'll showcase you a live demo of Sensfrx in action. And I'll also share success story of one of our clients, how we reduced their fake registrations from 3 per minute to almost about 0. Now, by the end of this session, you'll have a better understanding of how to protect your WooCommerce store from various types of fraud, how to enhance security, and ensure that your genuine customers have a seamless experience. So let's get started. Let me share my screen. I hope it's visible for everyone. Okay. So like I mentioned, welcome to the today's webinar. So to give you a brief overview, we'll go through 4 different stages. First is I'll discuss the problem on what is the problem and how do the WooCommerce store owners face this problem. And also I'll also discuss the prevention strategies. I'll also explain on why this matters. I'll follow it up with a live demo of the product. After that, I'll also share you a case study and also how Sensfrx is able to help you to stop frauds from happening. So the end goal in this session would be that by the end, you'll learn actionable strategies to safeguard your WooCommerce store. So now next, this is basically the agenda of the webinar. Next, let's take up the problem first. What is the problem of fraud in WooCommerce? There are different types of fraud that can happen on a WooCommerce store. But primarily, there are 3 main types of fraud which are the problem of the hour right now. That is fake registrations, fraudulent orders, and friendly fraud. Majority of the customers that we have are facing either of the three types of fraud out there. In the last month's webinar, I had covered friendly fraud in detail, but in this particular webinar, we'll go in depth for fake registration and fraudulent orders. Now, what are fake registrations? Fake registrations are basically wherein if someone is attempting any fake kind of information and trying to create fake registration or fake accounts, you can say, and use that account to perform fraudulent actions. Or they can be script kiddies who are just trying to play around with the website and try and find vulnerabilities in it. Or just for fun, they are doing this kind of fraud. There can be various reasons, but fake registrations definitely affects our customers as their business gets affected. And if the registrations are happening on a large volume, then that can affect the site's performance too. Fraudulent orders are basically wherein using a bot or some fake information, fake orders are placed, of an inventory hoarding is also done. Friendly fraud being someone who has placed an order and later saying that they were not the ones who placed the order, thereby getting the service or product for free. Now, to perform these kind of frauds, there are various common techniques used by fraudsters. Some of them being account takeovers, fake credentials, and bots and automated scripts. I'll delve a bit deeper in this in the upcoming slides. And what are the different impact of this on businesses? Of course, it leads to revenue loss, increased chargeback, damage to reputation. So the problem is huge. So we have to take action to tackle these kind of problems. Just to give you an overview, e-commerce fraud is expected to cost about $48 billion in 2023. And the number is just going on increasing year over year. Account takeovers and payment fraud being spearheading the types of fraud that are happening on the platform. Account takeovers, you can say that fake registrations goes under it. Fake registrations are always followed usually by account takeovers wherein they perform some kind of fraud. Payment fraud is something that fraudulent orders or friendly fraud would go under. So these frauds are definitely on the rise and are to be tackled with. So let's do one thing now. We'll delve a bit deeper on each of these topics. Okay. I had explained this, that is, what are the different types of frauds. Now, when we say that fake registrations are happening, what is really fake registration and what is really false information? If I'm entering any gibberish information, which are not basically real names, I'm just entering ABCD, IFG, something, some random characters, I'm entering in the name, in the email also I'm entering some kind of fake email or maybe a disposable email. In the phone number section, I'm entering some disposable phone number. My aim is to just quickly make registrations and as many registrations as possible. And if I'm successful in making those registrations, I can sell those accounts over dark web too, which can be followed up with account takeover fraud and payment frauds. So this becomes a major concern, especially if some kind of bot is being used to make these registrations. It definitely affects the website performance and it definitely affects the business as well. This is one of the major kind of problems that businesses face. Second being fraudulent orders. In this case, what happens is the fraudster might have purchased stolen credit card information from dark web, or it might also happen that they are just trying to brute force their way into making payments and placing orders. Often what happens if there is a COD method that is accepted on the platform, big chunks of order placements are done with a high order volume, especially if you have not placed any rate limits or any kind of cart value limits on the store. This can definitely lead to big time inventory hoarding or fraudulent orders being placed. This is again one of the big problems. Third being, of course, fraud, friendly fraud, wherein customers dispute legitimate transactions. There can be various reasons wherein they might have genuinely forgotten that they had placed the order. Some of their friend used their card to make the placement, or someone from their family member had placed order on the platform and they don't know about it. Or it can be a true fraud wherein They genuinely place the order, but they are just playing around trying to see if they can get the product or service for free. So these are the three different types of fraud that are found to be happening on WooCommerce. And when we say that, even you might be familiar with this, that spam is a big problem. Fake registrations is part of that. So when a lot of spam registrations are happening, that also goes under fake registration kind of fraud, which is a big problem of the hour right now for WooCommerce store owners. Now, how do the fraudsters perform these fraud? There are different common techniques used by fraudsters. First is account takeovers, of course, wherein they might have received uh, a database of user credentials, and they're running a tool and trying to just brute force their way into it, into the platform. Various combinations of usernames and passwords are being attempted to see if they can get a successful hit and thereby committing an account takeover. Or they have just a database of emails and they are trying various different password combinations to try and gain access of the platform. Phishing also being one of them, wherein from a phishing website source, they are landing on this genuine platform and they are able to enter the login password and they are able to log in on the platform. Often phishing is also followed by MITM attack to gain access of the actual credentials, which are later used by fraudsters to perform account takeover fraud and get login access of the platform. And if you get the login access of the platform, if the payment methods are stored on the platform, then those can be exploited to make payments or make fraudulent orders on the platform, on the store. So now, next one being fake credentials, which I had covered in the earlier slide too. So in this technique, like I've mentioned, they have various generators as well. Nowadays, they're easily available. Even in the attack tools, they get generators wherein automatically uh, new names are generated, addresses are generated, emails are generated, phone numbers are generated. Often, what happens is they even have genuine information which they use and try to make fake registrations on the platform. The identity is of someone else. They are just using it to make accounts on the platform to further perform fraud on the platform. So this is also one of the techniques used by fraudsters, and this gets difficult to detect, especially when there are genuine emails being used to create accounts on the platform. Third one being bots and automated scripts, wherein automated tools are used to create fake accounts, which I've just mentioned. There are readily tools available, there are scripts available, which will simulate similar to human behavior, similar to human identity information. Using that, fake registrations are done and fraudulent orders are placed. So these are the most common techniques used by fraudsters to perform fraud on your WooCommerce stores. Now, what is the impact on businesses? First is, of course, revenue loss. Fraudulent activities lead to lost revenue through chargebacks, and of course, it also leads to increasing operating costs. If there is continuously fake registrations being happening, you'll need to dedicate some time to clear these fake registrations from the platform. You'll also need to see if there are any fraudulent orders placed, investigation is needed, so thereby you need to spend time on it, thereby leading to lost revenue. And if someone places chargeback, which is of course again the chargeback issue is increasing day by day, as you know. So what happens is high fraud rates cause chargebacks. Now to resolve those chargebacks, you need to go to a chargeback management service that will again cost you money. Wherein if you lose there, you'll have to, of course, pay back to the customer, thereby leading to again financial loss. So increased chargebacks, revenue losses, of course, there, and there is reputational damage as well. As once the customer loses interest on the business, it's difficult to bring the customer back on the platform. And he or she might inform again more people about how They faced fraud issues on the platform, and due to it, they have lost trust in it, thereby leading more and more people to leaving your platform and further leading to financial or revenue loss for the business. These are the different impacts that happens on the business. So now the next question is, why WooCommerce? Why is WooCommerce specifically targeted for frauds? First is, of course, popularity and market share. WordPress being the most common CMS available on the internet. Majority of the websites that are out there who are using CMSs are using WordPress. And as they are familiar with WordPress, turning it into an e-commerce store by just installing the WooCommerce plugin, it gets easier. Even without developer time, one can just set up and get the site up and running within no time. And there are, of course, readily themes also available, so it gets very easy to get your store up and running within no time. So the popularity and the huge market share is one of the reasons. Second is, of course, the ease of use and accessibility. It is so readily available. It's free of cost. WooCommerce and WordPress are freely available. So majority of them, especially who are starting up, small to medium sized businesses, prefer using WooCommerce over other platforms. Third being, of course, low barrier to entry for fraudsters. As there is not much cost involved, they can set up their own test environment and try to perform fraud on those platforms to see if they can get some kind of entry into the platform or website, and thereby leading to perform fraud on the platform. Fourth being open source nature, as these are open sources, their codes are easily and readily available. The fraudster can just go through the whole open source code and see if there is anything that the user can that the fraudster can exploit to perform fraud on the platform. Next being, of course, high transaction volume. As there are so many platforms on the web who are using WooCommerce, there are high transaction volumes that are being placed on these platforms. And if you are able to find a break-in or a way to perform fraud on one store, you have so many other WooCommerce platforms easily available to perform fraud on. So this becomes very easy for the fraudster. You find a way to break in one place, you will find it somewhere else as well. And the last being varied user base. That is, there are small businesses, even the micro business who have just started, they also have presence on WooCommerce. And there are mid-sized businesses as well who have high volume of transactions happening every day who are using WooCommerce. And each of these businesses have different types of issues on their platform. So that also helps the fraudsters to see on what use case can they exploit to perform fraud on the platform. These are the various reasons why WooCommerce are targeted. Now, as you have understood now about the problem and its impact and on why WooCommerce is being targeted, let's try to understand on what are the various kinds of fraud signals that are used by fraudsters and how can we use those to our advantage as well. Let's discuss the various fraud signals first. Now, to perform fake registrations, unusual registration signals are the first, registration patterns are the first kind of fraud signals that you can identify. In this case, what happens is multiple registrations are done using the same IP. It is often done even using the same device. So if we are able to identify this, this is one way to say that these are an attempt to make fake registration on the platform. Second being rapid account creation, that is the accounts are being created too fast, too rapidly. That can also lead to identification of unusual registration pattern. This is one of the most common fraud signals that we can identify for fake registrations. Now, second being suspicious email addresses. The most common way to make registration on the platform is, of course, emails. In many of the e-commerce stores, you have to just provide the email and you would be able to log in. For registration, they'll just ask you the email and maybe a password, and you are able to create account on the platform. So all you'll need is a disposable email or a lost identity email, that is someone else email, genuine email which I have access to, uh, or even an email whose domain has expired and you're using that domain, you'll basically purchase that domain. And using that, you'll create an account to gain access on the platform. So using these various methods or the suspicious email addresses, user is able to make fake registrations on the platform. The third being inconsistent or false information. So if someone is using fake names and addresses, like I mentioned, there are a lot of generators available, and often these generate very generic kind of names, which are easily identifiable as fake in most of the cases. So if there is any inconsistent or false information being provided, often what they do is when they are providing emails, they'll use some say john.smith@gmail.com. They'll just move the dot placement to somewhere else. joh.n smith@gmail.com. So they'll just move these things around and try to create new registrations on the platform. So this can also be a fraud signal, inconsistent, or you can say false information being provided. Mismatch in information as well. That is, say they are entering an address from US, but the country is entered as UK. This is often found that the address that has been entered, there is a lot of anomaly in it, or you can say mismatch in it, which leads to understanding that there is some inconsistent or false information being provided. Now, the next one being geographic discrepancies. Now, if we find that some of the examples being IP and location mismatch, wherein we are finding that the IP is of a certain location and the location that we have detected of the user is from a completely different location. So the location of the IP and the location of the geolocation of the device that we have fetched, both are not adding up, both are not matching up. That can be one of the factors to identify a fraud signal. Then the other one being high risk region. Now, if we have identified that from a specific location, high amount of frauds are being performed, its risk can be increased. It can be marked as a high risk location. Now, from such high risk location, if someone is trying to attempt a registration, we should be able to identify it and stop them from making the registration. So the next one being behavioral indicators. Now, in case of behavioral indicators, we will identify if there is any change in behavior. Some of them being that all of a sudden high activity is being observed. That is, a user who has very less number of logins and very less number of activities is being performed. Maybe he just logs in, checks a couple of categories for products and logs out. And all of a sudden he's jumping from one location to another. He's adding a lot of items on the cart. He's trying to change the password. So if high level of activity is observed or abnormality of placing uh, uh, abnormality of making registrations on the platform, or after registration while accessing the platform, if abnormality is found, we can say that this is a fake registration that has happened. So you can stop them while registering, or you can even stop them after account login as well. Then frequent changes, of course, which is again a part of behavioral indicator. That is, there are too many things being changed. Maybe as soon as the usual timing that they have logged in is not matching, the usual behavior of the user of what kind of products they see, it is not adding up. The usual location or the usual device is not matching up. Any kind of deviation in behavior can contribute towards finding a fraud signal. Now, the next one being bot-based signals, wherein we can see that an automated form submission is being done with a very high frequency. So if any kind of such bot activity is being identified, that can contribute towards identifying fraud signal. Also irregular interaction patterns as well. So like for an example, if the mouse patterns are not matching up, there is a repetitive mouse movement that is being observed, or a repetitive same keyboard speed is being observed. That is, someone is entering the information into the registration form, making the registration, and on each attempt, the speed of keyboard typing or the mouse movement heat map are exactly the same. Or in some cases, there is too much irregularity. There is frequent jumps or irregularity in the mouse or keyboard behavior or activity behavior that can contribute towards identifying that this is a bot-based signal. So these are the various signals through which we can identify that whether this is a genuine user who's trying to make the registration or a bad actor or a fraudster who's trying to make the registration. Now let's take into account fraudulent orders. So now for fraudulent orders, there are different types of behaviors that a fraudster can showcase. First one being unusual purchase patterns. That is, all of a sudden, very high ticket size orders are being placed. Say that the user usually places orders around $20 to $30. And all of a sudden, the user is placing an order of $500 or $1,000. That's a big jump from his usual behavior of placing orders. Also, the number of orders have suddenly increased. Maybe the user places an order once a month or once in 2 weeks, and you're observing that within 24 hours they have placed about 20 to 30 different orders. That can contribute towards identifying a fraud signal. Then multiple orders in short time, which I've just explained, that within short span of time, multiple orders are being placed. This can contribute towards unusual purchase patterns. The second being suspicious payment details. Say that the billing and shipping address is not matching. If the usual behavior of your customers on your WooCommerce store is that they're keeping the shipping and billing addresses the same most of the times. So when there is a mismatch, this can contribute towards a highly suspicious payment activity. So in this case, we can identify and stop the fraudster from making the payment. Second one being usage of stolen or fake credit cards. Say they are performing card testing. They have a database of credit cards. Using that, they are entering stolen credit card information and trying to make a purchase. So that can also contribute towards identifying fraud signal. Then there is irregular customer behavior as well. The way I had explained that there can be irregularity in fake registration. The same way in the transactions or when they are placing orders, there can be irregularity. If it is a first time customer and they are playing high value orders, say they performed a fake registration and they were successful. And as soon as they placed as soon as they registered, they followed it up with a very high value order. That can also contribute towards a fraudulent behavior, because this can say that maybe the payment that they're using is not genuine. Or if the the order method is COD, that can contribute towards huge loss to the business, because huge logistics is involved. So when they place the order using some kind of stolen credit card, but the order value is very high, and later the customer files for a chargeback, it can lead to revenue loss or financial loss for the business. And second one being unusual purchase frequency, which is again somewhere on the same lines that I've shared in the unusual purchase patterns, wherein the purchase frequency is very unusual. So say that like I've mentioned, say he places an order once in 2 weeks or once a month, and all of a sudden within short span of time they are placing a lot of orders. It's not necessary that within 24 hours they might place a lot of orders. The fraudster can be a smart one, wherein they are placing a lot of orders on an irregular interval. On say day one, they placed about $100 worth of orders, and after 10 days, they're placing $300 worth of orders, and after again 2 weeks, they're placing a high amount of orders. So if there is irregularity in purchase frequency, that can also contribute towards identifying as fraud signals. Now, the way we had geographic discrepancies in fake registrations, they are also applicable on fraudulent orders too. If there is IP and location mismatch, or the order is coming from a high risk region, the way it was for fake registration, it can also contribute towards identification of fraudulent orders. So the next one being order information anomalies. If we find that there is inconsistency in the information that the user is providing while they are placing an order, often in a lot of platforms, guest checkouts are also allowed. So they'll enter some kind of fake information there in the email and name that they are entering. In the billing address, they might enter some kind of fake information. So those order information can contribute towards identification of fraud signals. And in this case also, they might provide for disposable numbers or emails, so which can again be counted as a fraud anomaly. And the last one is bot-based signals. That is some kind of bot is being used, and that bot's sole purpose is to just place automated orders on the platform. Tons of orders. One of our customers is facing this kind of issue. We were able to identify and stop those frauds from happening. But this is again one of the big orders, one of the big issues that the store owners are facing. Automated registrations and automated order placements, especially sorry, I think I had lost my signal. I hope I am audible now, Soumya.
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Okay.
I think we lost you for 2 minutes, 2 seconds or 3 seconds.
Okay. Okay. I apologize for that. Okay. So after automated order placement, there is pattern behavior as well. If there is specific repetitive pattern that we can identify while placing orders, that also contributes towards identification of fraud signals. So these are the various fraud signals that one can use to identify fake registrations and fraudulent orders on the platform. Now, how do we prevent against it? What are the different prevention strategies that one can implement on their WooCommerce store to stop frauds on their platform? First is, of course, implement strong verification methods, wherein if someone is placing new orders, maybe we can have a multi-step verification in place, and only after they verify, they'll be able to make the registration. We have observed that there is about 60% decrease in account takeover attacks or fake registrations when someone implements strong verification methods on their WooCommerce store. Second being monitor and analyze activities. So whatever activities are being performed on the platform, be it transactions or registrations, the store owner should closely observe on these activities to identify if there is any fraudulent behavior that one can find there. Now, in case of Sensfrx, one business identified in real time and was able to stop more than 90% of their frauds on the platform. One of the cases I'll cover in the I'll cover further in the presentation in the webinar. So now, third being regularly update security measures. First is that always keep your WordPress and WooCommerce latest and up to date to ensure that security issues are taken care of. Both being real-time alerts and automated responses. If you are able to identify frauds in real time and have a mitigation which is automated and the response is taken care of by itself, that is when we are stopping the frauds. If the user is a genuine one, they should be able to verify themselves automatically. And if they are a fraudsters, then they should get the appropriate responses then and there in real time. That helps in preventing frauds happening on the platform. And fifth being, of course, leverage advanced fraud prevention solution. If there is any existing solution that is available in the marketplace. They can use it and leverage it to stop fake registrations and fraudulent orders on their platform. Okay, does anyone have any doubt until that until what I've shared up till now? Anything, if you have any questions, please uh, place it in the chat box and we'll take up right away. Okay, I think I'll be moving on to the next part of the presentation. Okay, now we are Sensfrx. We are your solution to fraud prevention for WooCommerce. Now, in this section or in this phase of the webinar, I'll take you through the product and I'll explain that how Sensfrx would be able to solve problems for your WooCommerce store and how you can use Sensfrx to its maximum to try and prevent frauds from happening on your platform. The first question would be, why Sensfrx? Why should we go for it? We can maybe implement some security measures and try to stop these frauds from happening. Now, the first thing is that we are real-time fraud detection for WooCommerce. That is, whenever fraud is happening on the platform, our aim is to identify before it really happens and to stop it in real time. And we are able to do that for many of our customers. Our success stories are the trust that we can give you to try and understand why Sensfrx can work for you. Second one is, of course, is that we detect various types of frauds. We are not just limited to one. As you can see in the WordPress plugin directory or various other solutions that are available on the platform, they usually help you in preventing spams. And that is often not enough. You need a one-stop solution which can prevent fake registrations, fraudulent orders, automated bots to be able to stop frauds on a platform. So we serve as a one-stop solution which can stop various kinds of frauds that can happen on your platform. Third one being we empower store owners. So our store owners always have the complete control to configure and understand on how the frauds are happening on the platform and how Sensfrx is able to stop it. So they can tweak or configure the rules on based on their needs, and that way they always have the complete control of their store and the solution as well. Also, apart from this, our solutions have various range of rules available which can be exploited by the store owner to stop frauds. And also we have machine learning based tools as well. So like I had mentioned earlier in the webinar that often the bots nowadays use genuine information to try and perform registration on the platform. In that case, it gets very difficult to identify fake from real. But we are able to successfully do that, thereby helping our customers to stop frauds. What are the various key features of Sensfrx? First is real-time fraud detection. Sensfrx continuously analyzes user behavior, registrations, login, and activities being performed on the platform, transactions being performed in real time. And it gives you responses and handles those frauds in real time on the platform. Now, the second being instant alerts on fraud registrations. So if there are any fraudulent registrations or orders that are happening, you get instant alerts on it, and you can see it on the plugin itself. And if there is anything that is out of the ordinary, you'll be able to see and identify it through our dashboard. Second one being comprehensive risk scoring. That is, we have a comprehensive risk scoring mechanism where the risk scores are divided into various levels, and based on that, actions are suggested, which I'll cover further in the live demo. Now, we also give you full visibility. That is, you can track each and every activity being performed on the platform. When it comes to placing orders, making registrations, or even logins on the platform, there is full visibility, and you can get detailed reports on how Sensfrx came up with a particular risk score and how we took action on that particular request, be it transaction, login, or registration. Both opening customized fraud policies, you can of course tailor the fraud prevention rules based on your needs. We have a custom rules feature where you can add specific rules that are applicable to your own store, thereby ensuring that you are able to customize it based on your own needs. If being whitelist and blacklist management, so you can easily whitelist and blacklist users based on emails, IDs, uh, emails, user IDs, IPs, or even usernames. And the last being seamless integration. The integration is so easy. You just have to install the plugin, generate the API keys, enter it on the integration part of the plugin, and that's it. You're done. You just need the API keys. You enter it in the integration page of the plugin, and you're done. Sensfrx will start doing its magic. These are the different key features that are there of Sensfrx. What I'll do is I'll take you through a live demo of the product before sharing the actual case study of one of our customers. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. Okay. So this is how our dashboard looks. There are various use cases wherein account security, transactions, new accounts, so you can say registrations, and bots are visible. So when I go to account security page, I can see in last 7 days how many logins were attempted. Out of the total logins, how many were allowed, challenged, or denied, and what are the different threats that we had observed. You can see a risk map and what are the different risk scores that we had observed in that particular scene. You can see the different user lists. You can go in detail to try and understand on how that particular fraud had happened. When you open a particular user, you can see what are the different devices that the user is using. What are the recent activities being performed on the device? How did Sensfrx come to a certain risk score? You can see detailed analytics, the risk analysis. How did we come to a particular decision and we denied the user from logging in? What are the different information that Sensfrx is collecting? Same in the case of transaction as well. What are the different amount of transactions happened? How many were allowed, challenged, or denied? Each transaction is listed. You can go in detail and see, like in this case, shipping address and billing address had some mismatch that caused this critical risk code to be triggered and the transaction was denied. You can see device, browser information, the transaction information. This was a cash on delivery kind of transaction. In case of new account, you can see how many new registrations were attempted, how many were allowed, challenged, and denied. Again, what are the top kind of threats that we had found? So we do email domain analysis. So you can see that unreachable email domain was used for registration. That we found that in about 6% registrations were stopped from making the registration. SPF record, it does not exist. Disposable email was used. Unpopular screen resolution and BME record was absent. So these are some top threats that we had observed for this particular application. Now, how do we come up with risk scores? So as you can see in the last page, Risk scores we have broadly categorized or into 4 different categories. That is low, medium, high, and critical. Or depending on what risk score uh, the user is in or the transaction is in, for each use case we have a different risk score. In case of account security, we have a risk score for a device, for the device that the users are using. In case of transactions, we have a transaction risk score. In case of new accounts, we have a new account risk score, or you can say registration risk score. In case of bots, we have a bot risk score. Now, these risk scores have different levels. Those levels being low, medium, high, and critical. Low being that it will be given frictionless login. Medium means some suspicious activities are observed. High being highly suspicious activities are observed, but we are not sure yet. In this case, a manual review is triggered wherein the transaction can be reviewed manually by our customer. And after they review it, they can approve or deny the transaction. In case of critical, the transaction is straight away denied and the reasoning is provided here. So the user is free to try and make the attempt on a transaction again. But if the risk score is found to be critical, they'll be denied from making the transaction again. Now, how do we come up with these risk scores? In the presentation, I had shared that there are various kinds of rules that can be used to identify fraud signals. So those rules can be, you can see here. We have basically 3 different types of rules. First being default policies, second being custom policies, which the user can set on their own, third being advanced policies, and the fourth being blacklist and whitelist management. For the default policy, I had mentioned that automated bot scripts, so there is a crawler detection is placed. So if we find that some automated crawler is being used to dump data from the WooCommerce store, in that case we'll identify and the risk score would be 100. And the user can change the action to. Default being the default suggested by the system, that is Sensfrx, or the customer can change it to approve, reject, or manual review depending on their own needs. I'd also mentioned shipping and billing address. So if the shipping and billing address are found to be different, in that case, the score is triggered. By default, it is set to 60, but again, the user can change it to reject or manual review depending on your own store needs. And if disposable phone validator is identified, in that case, we'll identify and we'll reject the transaction from happening. Here, reject is selected. So what will happen is if we identify that this is a disposable phone being used, they will be denied from making the registration. There is insecure payment gateway as well. A jailbroken device is being used. A joint account, that is same credit card, is being used by multiple user accounts. In that case, again, the risk score will be triggered to a higher one. In this case, we are triggering 10 risk score, but as the user has set it to reject, the user will be denied from making the payment. And the complete policy engine is configurable. You can configure it, change it to your own needs as you feel like it. There are some advanced policies which I had mentioned. Abnormal amount transaction, that is, if there is abnormality found on the amount of transactions being placed, if there are a higher number of transactions being placed, in that case, if abnormality is found, they will be rejected from making the transaction. Abnormality in order, abnormality in order rate, abnormality in profile updation, they've straight away gone and trying to change the risk score maybe. Abnormality in shipping cost as well. If the shipping cost is too higher than the product cost, that can again trigger an anomaly and will deny the user from making the purchase. Then there is credential stuffing attack as well, card testing, wherein maybe they have a stolen credit card database which they are trying to make the purchase on the platform. Friendly fraud is also there. If a single device is being used to make multiple registrations or multiple logins, will identify and they'll be rejected from registration or login on the platform. Now, in the custom policies, one can just create a new policy. There are different types of rules that one can create. Like for an example, on time duration, we can set up a rule on total transaction by credit card within the last And there are other options to be set up within the last 24 hours. If I set it as 10, then if there are more than 10 orders being placed using credit card method in 24 hours, then they would be blocked. They wouldn't be allowed to make the purchase on the platform. In this way, you can set up custom policies. There is data match as well, wherein if you say that visitor country and billing country, they are not matching up. A rule can be set up on that end as well. And you can add it up with multiple rules. You can add up more rules there, depending on your needs. So you can stack it up one rule by the other. So there is one rule that is already set up. I can set up one more rule as if email is a disposable email, that will again add up. So if these two rules are added with AND relation, if they both match up, in that case, a rule will be applied. So this way you can easily configure the policy engine based on your needs, and you would be able to stop frauds from happening on the platform. Now, let me move back to the presentation. Okay, so let me share a real case study with one of our customers. This is the last phase of the webinar. If you have any questions, please definitely share it in the chat box and we'll take it up. So we had one of our customers who was facing a fake registration issue. You can clearly see in this graph wherein about 4,000 fake registrations were being performed on. And you can see critical, high, medium, and low different risk levels. And we had identified all of those 4,000 fake registrations that were happening on the platform, and we were able to stop them. Then the attack stopped for a while, and then again the fraudster tweaked the script somehow and started attempting the the registrations again. So again, you can see that there is a gradual increase in the attempt of making fake registrations. Even right now, today, about 2,600 to 2,700 fake registrations were attempted, but Sensfrx was able to identify it. So this is one of the I could say problem of the hour right now, with majority of our customers, fraudulent orders or fake registrations are being placed. Now, what happened? So as soon as they installed our plugin, we found that there were automated scripts that were being run on the platform, and using those scripts, the fraudster was able to make fake registrations. Now, while doing this, there were genuine customers who were making the registrations as well. But when those were attempting to make the registrations, those were not affected. Sensfrx was able to successfully block only the fraudulent registrations that are happening, and the genuine customers could still make the registrations freely without any issue. And you can see that their fake registrations, we found that about 83% of the registrations were fake, and we were able to bring them down. And the detection was in the form of bot activity. That is, bot activity was detected. Now, what is the result that happened? Their fake registrations were about 3 registrations per minute, which we were able to bring down to nearly 0. And the fake registrations are even being attempted as we speak right now, and still Sensfrx is able to successfully stop those fake registrations from happening. Now, what are the key takeaways that we can see from this case study is that genuine registrations were unaffected, and our customer was able to see an immediate improvement in the registrations on their platform. Before Sensfrx was installed, their website had even once gone down. They had to restore the backup to make the website up again. But after Sensfrx is installed, their website is up and running. They are not facing any issues as of now, and the website is running as normal. And in each case, we were able to detect bot attempts, and we were able to stop fake registrations from happening. And the third key takeaway is that everything is happening in real time without any delay. So this way, we were able to stop fake registrations for our customer. Okay, guys, I think I'm done with my webinar. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer. Okay, as I'm not seeing any questions, let me just share the WooCommerce link with you. So what I'll do is I'll share the plugin link in the chat box. If anyone is interested, all they have to do is just install the plugin and get started. I've shared it on the screen as well. I think that's about it. I think we are up. We have completed one webinar. Yeah, thanks Abhishek for joining in on the webinar.
Thank you, Janine, for sharing your knowledge with us. It was really very informative session. And I hope that everybody got to understand a lot about fraud detection and how they can actually use Sensfrx for their WooCommerce stores. Thank you, everybody, for joining in.
Thank you, Jinendra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you. Thank you.